if you were going to re-remember your childhood memories, only you were going to watch them like in front of you, not on a screen.
Hmm.
And you were going to watch them play out, but then you were going to have all the stuff that you experienced as someone between the ages of 10 and like 48. You were going to come into that same home with all the stuff you figured out on your own in your real life. And you're going to be like, wait a second, that's not what that's what happened, but that's we didn't have to feel that way because we didn't have that perspective. And it's not that little Amy, she was just naive and didn't have those experiences, but I realized that memories are malleable and it really comes down to the person who's remembering them. And there's something powerful and freeing about that because it lets everyone, including yourself, off the hook. Like,
Right.
like the bottom line is just like right now, and what you're doing, I'm doing, we're doing the best we can. That's what my mother was doing. She was doing the best she can. Did she get it all 100% right? No. Did I get it all 100% right? Absolutely not. And that's what being human beings are, though.
Right. And I always say, what's right? There's no book of right
Mm-mm.
that we can compare ourselves to, right?
No.
And everybody has a different version.
Right. Right. And I think that's what's so relatable about the book because it's obvious you're going to put yourself in big Amy and little Amy's shoes. And
Mhm.
that's why I love to talk about it because people want to talk about what that'd be like for their experience. And I think that there's so much healing in even thinking yourself through the same process. And again, I didn't see that as being, I thought people were just going to laugh and like spit drinks out while they were drinking. And I do think it's very funny. And that's my
Yeah.
favorite part. But I do think on another level, it is almost cathartic. The storyline is.
Yeah. Now, question, weird question, but maybe not. Why did you put in the almost rape scene?
I put that in because I've been asked that question a lot. I wanted to show the extreme that we as a family would go to in not telling anyone else something that happened, even if it was horrible. And I thought it was such a sign of the times because as I discussed the story, people like they were like, no, we didn't talk about our feelings either. Like we didn't discuss anything that happened that was real. And so I think that showed on an adult level, like we had all the kid examples, but on an adult level, this is how ingrained this is. Like I went in that half-bath after that scene and said, I'm not telling anybody this. I won't ever tell anybody. And I think it also, and this was before well, I'm sure it was at the beginning of the Me Too movement. And that wasn't a motivator for me at all, but it does tie in the storyline that there's all these stories that as women, as people that we've never told anybody.
And did that really happen to you?
It didn't happen to that extreme, but as a young working person, I had two incidents and I didn't write it for that reason though,
Right,
that
right,
it's,
right. No, I'm just, I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
it's a
my boss
common
was a pervert.
experience.
It was just the way it was, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah. No,
that's
and
why, yeah.
mine was too. And then I had a coworker who was, and yeah, but I wrote it because I just wanted, because I think again, it was part of this catharsis for me that I saw in myself and I saw how harmful it was that I had never shared any of this stuff with anybody.
Yeah.
And so I made that as an example that didn't have anything to do with my
Right.
memories, like an adult memory. And that could have very well happened. And the guy who I used from my memory to do that is someone who my mother told me when I was writing the book hit on her like
Oh,
inappropriately.
yeah.
So it all ties back together.
All right.
I've had a lot of people tell me that scene doesn't fit, and the narrative of the story it does for me.
It
But
does. Yeah, it
yeah,
does. That you didn't tell anyone. Like,
right. That's the whole purpose.
now, okay, one more question. How did the conversations that people had and the way people acted and stuff, it just seemed so real. Like,
Yeah.
how did you do that? Or is that just your gift to be able to write like that?
Well, people told me that after the book came out, and I was like, because I didn't know I could write dialogue. Like I hadn't, and I'm not professionally trained to write. I have a business degree, and I kind of fell into writing because we moved out of the country, and I was desperate for something to do, and I didn't have a work visa. That's the true story of
Uh-huh.
how I became a writer. But I didn't know I could do that, and it's such a compliment, and I appreciate it. And I don't know. I think you're right. I think it's just something I have within me that I would have never known about.
Wow. And did you start talking more about stuff after the book and emotions and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And
Okay, good.
my brother and sister and I have talked more. My dad and I talked more. And, my dad, who was my absolute hero, like he was, my BFF in a lot of ways. He was the last person when I did this drive-by binder throw when I gave him the book because I was so scared for them to read it. The five, the other four members of our party, and so he was the last one to read it, and he read it, and he sent me this beautiful text like, I loved. It was like a trip back in time for me too. I think you handle the delicate matters really well. I'd say more, but we don't talk about our feelings. Love, Dad. And then he'd always put the dog emoji, like the puppy dog emoji, dog emoji, blah, 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 all these dogs. And then the book went to print that next week, and Dad died suddenly. He just passed away. And so that the last text I have from my father is that text. That's how we
Oh,
ended it. And how beautiful. And had my friends not encouraged me to throw the binders out my window on the way back to Ohio that Christmas, at the end of that Christmas, I would have never had that text. And it just, to me, that's everything because he missed everything after that, but it doesn't really, like, he read the story and I got his little seal of approval. So,